Mondays always feel so weird because I haven't done this for 2 days. It really is an odd feeling. I think I'd be used to it by now, but I'm not. But freshly shaved last night, just for all of you. That's a lie, but I did shave last night. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Today is Monday. It is January 18th, 2021. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. Good morning, Andrew. Well, I had a good but very different kind of a weekend. I'm going to make sure the tablet's all good to go as I talk to you. And it does seem to be. We had snow this weekend. We had a lot of snow. I would say from Friday through yesterday at I don't know, it was afternoon, 2 o'clock. I got somewhere around a foot of snow, but it was heavy, wet snow. And for those of you who live in the Northeast, you know that that is the kind of snow that will bring trees down, especially soft trees like birch and lilacs. I've got a few birches that aren't of much concern. One of them does have a branch over some power lines, so I did my best to shake that off. And I went out 4 different times, trudging through the deep snow, shaking the snow off the lilac trees, and I am exhausted. You wouldn't think it would be that difficult, but it was just trudge, shake, shake. I brought a broom. I have an old broom to get the high branches. And between that and putting the snowblower back together, it was a lot. I felt like I was working on a farm. This was a farm weekend. I didn't leave the house. I didn't go beyond my driveway at all. Worked on the snowblower, worked on a project that I gotta get a couple bigger clamps, but it has a bit of a martial arts aspect to it. So when I'm done with it, or at least ready to show it, I will show you. I don't work on projects very often. Good morning, Denise. Haven't seen you here live, I don't know, ever. But it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so I know a number of you have the day off. I am not one of them. I mean, I could, right? It's my own schedule, but I have learned over the years that unless I am traveling, unless I have plans on a day off, I am much better off, working the day, because all the work that would have to get done just gets crammed into other days. And what would I be doing? Not going anywhere. I have friends that are going skiing today. That's an option. Denise says, no, I'm usually walking the dog, but I'm in New Jersey for the holiday, so he's in the backyard. Perfect. It's funny. Would it be this coming weekend or next weekend? Would be the Action Martial Arts Hall of Honors Mega Weekend. Good morning, Frank. Whatever the title of that event is, in Atlantic City, hosted by Sifu Alan Goldberg. And didn't go last year. It's not happening this year. And I'm missing it. I'm missing the drive to Atlantic City with my buddy Paul, who just had a birthday Thursday? I'm missing all my martial arts friends. I'm missing going anywhere. Oh, man. Don't miss saving the money, though. It's not, it's not a super expensive weekend. It's really not. Good morning, Brian. One of the things that shocked me the first time I saw the pricing at a casino was the discrepancy between the pricing staying midweek versus the weekend. It was like $200 to stay Friday and Saturday night each. But if I want to stay Tuesday, it was like $49. Man, that's cheap. Wish I lived closer. Wish it wasn't 8 hours away. Now, there are casinos closer by, and I'm not much of a gambler. It's more just that there's a lot going on, and there's good food and people watching and shows. Foxwoods in Connecticut isn't that far away. There's a casino a couple towns over from where I grew up in Maine, in Oxford, which I've never been to. And it's probably perfectly fine. But if you grew up where I grew up, the idea of there being a casino in Oxford is weird. It is Monday. There is an episode. Let's see if it's out yet. We're looking. It does not appear to be out yet. Let me check one more spot, because it's not in the playlist. Nope, not out yet. Episode 572 will be out momentarily. I don't remember who it is. Anything else happened this weekend? How about Friday? What happened Friday? Friday was a good day. Gym and food and just all the normal stuff. Nothing too special to report. These flies, it's January. These stupid flies should be gone by now. I watched some movies. I watched start to finish Mandalorian. I'm sorry. I caught up on Mandalorian. I'd watched season 1, but it's good. It's a good show. Anybody who hasn't seen it, it's a good show. Oh, Andrew says he thinks it's Nikolai Lee. I think you're right. I believe you're right. And how would Andrew know that? Because I post this in the Patreon. In the Patreon posts, who's coming and when. Haha. I'm being encouraged to use chopsticks on this fly. This is a really small fly. It's like one of those fruit flies. And it comes from the fact that I have a lot of plants inside and hydroponics and a compost bucket. There's a lot of places for flies to hang out, unfortunately. Yeah, I did mention on Patreon. We got a lot. We got a lot going on. Friday, I think I've got 30 more pages, 40 more pages on the book to get through. I'll chip away at that some more today. I promised Stacy should be able to read it by her birthday, which is this week. So I'm gonna get that done. Those of you watching live, if throw me a thumbs up on this, helps spread this show. Appreciate it. What's going on today? It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Do we call it throw in the junior when we talk about this? I don't know. I don't think it's disrespectful either way. I've got a normal day's worth of work. I got client stuff, I got email, I got projects. Oh, here's the thing I'll share with you from Friday. 2 things going on. I had a call with someone who has some ideas. Somebody who joins us on this show from time to time. And one of the bits of advice that I've received from several people now is whistlekick would benefit from a bit of a spokesperson, a bit of a personality. You could go as far as calling it a celebrity endorsement. And I've looked for that. Here's the problem. In martial arts, we don't have a lot of those people. You could pick somebody that a bunch of people know. There are going to be plenty of people that don't know that person. I'm not able to afford Chuck Norris. I'm not able to afford Bill Wallace. And even if I did, unfortunately, there are a lot of younger people who don't know who he is, which makes me really sad. I responded, there was an Instagram post somebody put up this weekend, and it was about, picking your best fighters of all time. And somebody put in the comments that Bill Wallace was only a point fighter. It's just flat out not true. People don't know their history necessarily. And so part of my conversation with this person went back to what I've heard from several people, which was make yourself the personality, make yourself the quote unquote the celebrity, which is hard because I'm not comfortable with it. But I'm starting to get an idea of what that might look like. And for those of you watching, listening, the number one way that I might be doing that, I think the place we're going to start, I have a call with one of the people on the team tomorrow to discuss this. I might start putting out some martial arts content myself, separate from whistlekick. So I might start doing some videos on certain martial arts concepts that I find interesting. Talking about physiology primarily. So, yeah. I think that's the biggest thing to share there. Because if we put out, let's say I teach a video on how to do a sidekick, and I put it out as whistlekick. Now all of a sudden, whistlekick is saying, this is the right way to do a sidekick. That doesn't work for the brand. The brand is about being broad and all-encompassing. But if I do it personally, it's a little bit different, isn't it? Then I can say, no, this is my way. I'm a person. I'm not a company. I'm not a brand. I personally am part of whistlekick, yeah, but there's just enough distance between the two. Might work. There was something else I was going to share. I forget what it was. Oh, there was one thing. So this has virtually nothing to do with martial arts, other than I know we've got some nerdy people in the mix, and you might find this interesting. Andrew says, you and I likely do those kicks differently. I think we do. And it's interesting because you were one of the people I was thinking of, Andrew. Good morning, Nathan. Andrew was one of the people I was thinking of collaborating with on this because he's in Vermont. And I'm not really allowed to leave the state per all of these guidelines. I mean, I can, but it's complicated if I'm going to follow the rules. Good morning, Nathan. Good morning, Casper. Look at this. We've got all these people saying good morning to each other. We've got 9 people watching live. We have never had this many people watching live. That's super cool. I'm super pumped. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. What a great way to start the week. All right. Here's the short of it, and then we'll start talking about whatever it was that you all submitted. Let's take a look. Forget those words. I'm still waking up. I've got a client project. Client, short version, needed a custom database. And I understand databases. We put the specifications together, and then I looked at the best way to implement it without a ton of time, code, money, etc., because that's not my strength. And we found Airtable. If you have ever thought, I would really benefit from this really simple custom database kind of a thing to track my whatever, check out Airtable. It's pretty cool. I was able to knock together the roots of the first few steps on this database, and it looks good, and it's free. At least the basic version that we're working with right now. So there's a kind of a businessy tip from me to you. Check out Airtable. Now it's time to see what you wrote in for me to talk about. Where are my notifications? Here they are. All right. And as one might expect today, Frank primed us with some stuff about the late Martin Luther King Jr. Today, Monday, January, he says 17th. Did I get the date wrong? Nope, it's the 18th. Okay. Today, Monday, January 18th, 2021, is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Number 1. Returning violence for violence multiplies violence, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. And a lot of these, I'm not going to apply them to current events. You can do that yourself pretty simply. But we can apply these to martial arts principles. If we think about violence meaning violence, what about in the context of self-defense? What about as a martial artist? We're in what we teach or we confront, we're confronted on the street. If someone brings violence to us, and we meet that violence or even exceed that violence, it can continue to grow. It can exceed the threshold that it's at. Other people can jump in. Reprisals, vengeance. What's the best way to end violence? To diffuse, to avoid, to reduce. Right? Someone brings violence to you, you knock it back. You use as little violence as necessary to get out of the situation. There's a great scene, I don't know that this happens in the movie. Casper says, be nice, not weak. Yes. There's a great scene in the book, Way of the Peaceful Warrior, which is a book that I've talked about a number of times. Very transformational in my life. And in this scene, the main character is confronted by a group, and it's not a martial arts book. He doesn't have any martial arts training. Not really. He's confronted by a group, and the leader of the group kind of eggs him on, and it's clear that a fight is going to happen. And the main character realizes that the respect of the others in his social group is pretty much all this person has. And he lets him hit him, and he falls over. He chooses to end the fight by getting punched in the face. And it does exactly what he'd hoped. The other person didn't lose face. Yeah, he's sore, he's hurt. But it ends. He found the fastest, most effective way to end the fight and not have additional incidents. Because in this case, if I'm remembering correctly, it was going to continue. There was evidence that if the main character had won, it would have continued. There would have been a bigger fight the next day. Something to keep in mind. Violence tends to escalate. If only we could escalate positive emotions and outcomes the way we do negative. This is probably my favorite MLK quote. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Pretty small hop to get from that quote to current events, isn't it? When people come to me and they justify their actions, oh, but so-and-so, essentially, they started it. Somebody started it. You started it. Well, we do teach the opposite of that as justification in, preschool, kindergarten. We teach our kids the behavior we want them to have, and then we model completely different behavior. That's not going to work out well long term, is it? Love, light. Stacy says, yes, that is a stunning quote. It is. I think it best boils off everything that he said. I believe it's on Hulu. It may be on Netflix. I forget where, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it streaming. There's a great show, an animated series called The Boondocks. I watched Boondock Saints this weekend. There's a great show called The Boondocks. And it's a really interesting show. It's very hip-hop. It's very political, not in the sense of, Democrat, Republican, but just very politically conscious. And I always saw it as before its time. It started off as a comic strip back in the 90s. And they made an animated show out of it, and it's great. But there's an episode the entire premise is that Martin Luther King, instead of dying after he gets shot, goes into a coma and wakes up 20, 30 years later. And what is his reaction? What is his response? How has the world changed versus what he said? And if you have time today, track that down. It is incredibly poignant. And of course, the man has passed away, so we can't be sure that what the character of him in this show is accurate, but it seems like it would be. And I don't want to say anything. I don't want to ruin it because it's powerful. It's a great show all the way through. My tablet's telling me I'm not connected to the internet. Come on, here we go. Love is the most durable power in the world. This creative force is the most potent instrument available in mankind's quest for peace and security. This creative force is the most powerful instrument available in man's quest for peace and security. It's interesting to think about love as a creative force. If love is creative, and you've heard me talk before, hate being the opposite of that, or fear rather, fear is destructive. Fear holds things back. It builds up walls. It's negative. It's the opposite, right? It stifles. Love can accomplish anything. Love, and no, it doesn't necessarily have to exist quite in the way you might think of it, but love is what creates life. The most powerful creation that can exist. Literally bringing a life into existence. Fear can take it. Fear sucks. Fear holds us back. I'm doing this kind of quick mental check. How much fear am I giving into in my life today? And honestly, not a lot. More than I'd like, because I'd like it to be zero. But less than there used to be. I used to be a very scared, fearful person. I was sharing some things with a friend yesterday about some of the things that I grew up with that weren't positive. They led to a lot of fear. But I've spent a lot of time unpacking that, trying to get rid of it. Those of you that read the book, the novel, may pick up on some of it. They say, write what you know. I wrote what I know. We may all have come, let's try that again. We may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. And I would imagine if you think about the context of that quote, has a double meaning. You unfortunately think about ships from Africa, slave ships. There are a few things I can wrap my head around a few things I can wrap my head around less than the notion of slavery and people believing that was okay. It just blows my mind. And I hope that it would have blown my mind 100, 200, 300 years ago. I really hope that for myself. I don't know, but I'm optimistic. And then, of course, the times. You could use at least one of those definitions here now. We all arrived here, this moment, in different ways, but we are all in this moment together now. We can stand together and work for common good, common causes, or we can argue and fight You know, when I think about standing unified, one of the best examples I can come up with of how it falls apart when you're not is the Occupy movement. If you remember Occupy Wall Street, when was this? I remember where I was living. So that would have been, it was a decade ago. It was 10 years ago. And when it started, everyone was pretty clear. They are rallying against corporate greed. But the movement was hell-bent on having a leader. And everybody brought their own cause. It's about everything, for everyone. And the lack of leadership, the intentionally flat hierarchy, and the dilution of efforts by having too many causes led to no one paying any more attention. The irony is, if even the people who hadn't cared so much about corporate greed right away, assuming they had agreed with it, if they had railed against that, if the whole group had said, okay, this is the thing we're going to fight for first, they would have gotten further. And then they could have focused on something else. You could take that to your martial arts training too. If you want to practice your basics, let's say you're a black belt, okay? You know a bunch of basics, a bunch of techniques, a bunch of combinations, a bunch of forms. And you have an hour-long class and you practice everything. How much progress are you going to make on any of it? Zero. It's not enough time. Doing each technique 3 or 4 times isn't enough to progress. It may be enough to stop regression. But you've got to think about, there's a minimum amount of effort required to move the needle on anything. And the better you get, the larger the thing, the more effort it takes to move that needle. So you work on a quarter of it, a third of it, a tenth of it today, and then another tenth or a quarter, whatever, tomorrow. One more. Great way to end. Thank you, Frank. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And I'm not going to answer that. Hopefully the answer, at least part of it, the public part of it, is obvious. Hopefully you know what I'm doing for others. I guess I am going to answer it. I believe wholeheartedly that the world would be a better place if everyone did at least 6 months of martial arts. That is my goal. That is what I will work my life towards. It is what I have spent the last, depending on how you look at it, 5 or 10 years on. I will spend the rest of my life on it. Because it's the one thing I can do that I think will make a substantial, or could make a substantial change in the world. You may have a different way. You may define the world differently. You may have different thoughts or ideas. In fact, I'm sure you do. But I hope you're willing to leave the world just a little bit better. Right? Do a little bit more than your share. That's my metric. As long as you do a little bit more than your share, good to go. Good morning, Emmett. So, I'm going to go. Check out that episode when it goes live. Should be any moment now. In fact, it might even be in your podcast feed at the moment. Leave me some questions, some comments for tomorrow. And for those of you who stop by live, this is the biggest show we've ever had. That makes me really happy. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. We're continuing to grow this show, which I am pleasantly surprised. I thought we had hit a point, our ceiling. No, we haven't. Makes me excited. If you've got questions or comments, you got things you want me to talk about in tomorrow's show, leave it below. And if you're new, subscribe, turn on notifications. We do it every weekday, 6:30 a.m. Excuse me. Oh, burping up coffee. I'm going to go have another cup of coffee, work on the novel. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Peace.